Elias Wren had studied 1,000 planets from a distance, but nothing prepared him for standing under a sky that could not decide what it wanted to be. The sun above him was pale and sharp, like winter light, yet the air was warm enough to make sweat form at his neck. The wind smelled of rain, but not a single cloud moved the way it should. Everything felt wrong, like a song played slightly out of tune. This world was called Lyris by its people. From orbit it looked calm and beautiful, wide oceans, green continents, gentle cloud bands. The data said the planet should have had stable seasons, gentle cycles, predictable weather. The data was wrong. Elias adjusted the strap of his equipment bag and followed the guide path into the city. Tall structures curved upward like living things, built to move with wind and heat. Screens along the streets showed warnings in shifting colors. Symbols flashed, then changed again, as if the system itself was unsure what message to send. He had been here only 3 days, and already the temperature had changed 4 times in a single cycle. One morning brought frost. By evening, the rivers swelled with sudden rain. The local scientists were confused. The models failed again and again. Their technology was advanced, but it depended on rules that no longer worked. Elias had been sent because humans were used to broken systems. Inside the climate center, the air was cool and controlled. Elias placed his bag down and activated his tablet, bringing up maps filled with red and yellow lines. Pressure systems twisted in ways that made no sense. Ocean currents bent and slowed, then reversed. This should not be happening, one of the local researchers said quietly. She stood near the main display, tall and still, her skin marked with faint patterns that shifted with her mood. Her name was Aurelia. She was not a scientist by training, but a coordinator, someone who turned knowledge into action. She had been watching Elias since he arrived. Elias rubbed his eyes. "It shouldn't," he agreed, "but it is." Aurelia turned to him. "Your people faced instability like this on your home world," he nodded. "Not exactly the same, but close enough." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Our records show Earth had stable seasons for most of its history." Elias gave a small, tired smile. "Stable is a funny word. We had ice ages, heat waves, floods, droughts, sometimes all in the same century. We learned not to trust the idea that nature would behave." The room grew quiet. Outside, thunder rolled, even though the sky was still clear. The next days passed in long hours and short rest. Elias worked with the local teams, rewriting models, tearing down assumptions, building rough predictions instead of perfect ones. He told them to expect failure and plan for it. That advice made them uncomfortable. Their systems were designed for balance, for smooth change, for slow correction. Elias kept asking what happened if everything went wrong at once. On the 5th day, everything did. A storm formed over the Western Ocean without warning. It gained strength too fast, pulling heat from the sea and cold from the upper air. Winds reached the coast before evacuation alerts finished loading. Elias was in the control room when the alarms changed tone. He didn't wait for instructions. "Shelters first," he said. "Forget transport grids. Use anything underground or reinforced." Aurelia hesitated only a second, then relayed the command. The storm hit harder than expected. Towers bent but did not break. Water flooded streets that had never known rain before. When it ended, the damage was heavy, but far less than the worst predictions. Lives were saved. Afterward, Aurelia found Elias standing outside, watching clouds tear themselves apart across the sky. "You acted before the data confirmed the danger," she said. Elias shrugged. "If you wait for confirmation, you're usually too late." She looked at him for a long moment. "You assume the world will fail you." He met her gaze. "We assume it might. That changes everything." His official assignment was 6 weeks long. He marked the days carefully at first, counting them like steps toward home. But as time passed, the marks became less important. Lyris grew stranger. Seasons overlapped. Snow fell in the highlands while crops ripened below. Animals migrated early, then turned back, confused. Even the planet's magnetic field showed small but worrying changes. The locals grew anxious. Their stories spoke of balance as something sacred. To them, the world was breaking a promise. To Elias, it was simply changing. Near the end of the 5th week, his report was complete. It was honest, careful, and deeply unsettling. He sent it to his superiors and began packing his equipment. Aurelia met him at the landing platform. The sky was orange and violet, colors that meant nothing good anymore. "You are leaving," she said. "Yes," Elias replied. "My part is done, others will come." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "The instability is increasing. Our long-term systems predict collapse within 3 cycles." Elias nodded. "I know." "Your people adapt faster than ours," she continued. "You plan for disaster as if it is normal." "For us," Elias said softly, "it is." She stepped closer. "Then stay." The words seemed to echo between them. "That's not my decision alone," he said. "I am asking anyway," Aurelia replied. "Not as a coordinator, as someone who sees what is coming." The ground trembled faintly beneath their feet. Somewhere far away, ice broke where ice should not exist. Elias looked at the sky, at the unstable light, at a world that refused to follow the rules it was given. He thought of Earth, of storms and deserts and frozen seas, of humans who learned to live anyway. "I'll consider it," he said. That night, new data arrived from orbit. The planet's star showed irregular activity, small changes, but enough to push Lyris beyond recovery if nothing was done. Elias stared at the numbers long after everyone else had left. Outside, the season changed again. And this time it did not look like it would change back. Elias did not sleep that night. The numbers stayed in his mind, repeating again and again. The star's output shifts were small, but they were not random. They followed a pattern that no model on Lyris had been designed to read. The planet was not just suffering weather problems. Its entire system was slowly losing balance. By morning, the air outside had turned cold again. Frost covered the wide leaves along the walkways, even though the previous evening had been warm enough for rain. People moved faster now, eyes lifted often toward the sky, as if it might suddenly fall. Elias requested a full emergency session with the Climate Council. It was not his place to call one, but no one stopped him. Aurelia stood beside him as the chamber filled. Leaders, scientists, planners, and observers took their places in silence. The large display behind them showed the planet from orbit, wrapped in shifting colors that marked instability. Elias spoke carefully. He avoided dramatic words. He used simple facts. "The seasonal collapse is accelerating," he said. "Your systems are reacting, not adapting. That delay is dangerous." One council member asked, "Can this be reversed?" Elias paused before answering. "No, not fully." The room stirred. Quiet sounds of fear moved through the crowd. "What you are facing is not a temporary crisis," he continued. "Your world is changing its rules. You can either try to force the old balance back, or you can change how you live." Another voice spoke sharply. "We have followed the planet's rhythms for centuries." "And humans followed theirs," Elias replied, "until the rhythms broke." He showed them images of Earth, flooded cities, frozen plains, burning forests, then images of rebuilding, moving cities, new crops, strange machines in harsh places. "We did not win against our world," he said. "We endured it." Some council members looked away. Others leaned forward. Aurelia spoke then. "If we do nothing, what happens?" Elias answered honestly. "Mass displacement, food loss, system failure. Many will not survive the transition." Silence fell heavy and deep. "What if we follow human methods?" someone asked. Elias met their eyes. "Then survival becomes possible, but it will not be gentle." The council did not decide that day, but they did not order Elias to leave either. Work began immediately. Human engineers arrived within days, pulled from nearby systems. They brought tools not designed for beauty or balance but for speed and repair. Modular shelters, mobile power units, crops that could grow in bad soil and worse weather. The natives watched closely. They were used to systems that lasted centuries. Human designs looked temporary, almost careless. But when storms struck without warning, those temporary systems held. Aurelia walked through one of the new shelter zones as wind howled outside. The structures were rough, reinforced, and ugly by her people's standards. Inside, families sat safely, warm and calm. These were built in 3 days, she said. Elias nodded. On Earth, that's slow. She studied him. Your people assume everything can break at any moment. We assume it will, he replied. So when it does, we're ready. As weeks passed, the planet grew harsher. Rains came too heavy, then stopped completely. Winds shifted direction mid-storm. Entire ecosystems moved or died. Animals adapted or vanished. The natives struggled with grief. They had believed their world was a living partner. Now it felt like a stranger. Humans responded differently. They adjusted schedules daily. They changed plans without regret. When something failed, they salvaged it and moved on. Their calm confused the locals at first, then slowly inspired them. Aurelia watched human teams work through exhaustion, sharing quiet jokes even as the ground shook beneath them. Why are they not afraid? She asked Elias one evening. They are, he said. They just don't let it stop them. New data arrived constantly. Elias noticed something worrying. The planet's upper atmosphere was thinning unevenly. If it continued, radiation exposure would rise and long-term survival would become much harder. He brought this to the council. The debate that followed was fierce. Some wanted to evacuate the population slowly. Others argued to stay and fight for their world. The decision split families, cities, and traditions. Elias did not speak during most of it. Finally, Aurelia turned to him. If this were Earth, she asked, what would humans do? Elias thought carefully. Some would leave, some would stay, but those who stayed would change everything. The council delayed the final vote. That night, a massive temperature drop struck the northern continent. Crops failed in hours. Food reserves meant for months vanished overnight. Emergency response teams moved fast. Human logistics systems rerouted supplies without waiting for approval. Lives were saved again, but the cost was clear. Aurelia stood with Elias as the frozen fields stretched before them. We are losing our old world, she said. Yes, Elias answered, but you're gaining a future. She looked at him sharply. Are you sure? He did not answer right away. Later, a message arrived from Earth Command. Elias was ordered to return within 10 days. His mission had exceeded its scope. Risk levels were rising. He stared at the message for a long time. Aurelia found him in the observation room. They are calling you back, she said. Yes. You will go. I don't know. She faced the wide window, where the sky showed signs of another storm forming far too quickly. If you leave, we will try to continue, but I do not know if we will succeed. Elias felt the weight of that truth. Humans had not been invited to save Lyris. They had simply arrived when things began to break. Now their presence had changed everything. The council finally voted. Evacuation would begin. Entire cities would be moved off-world over the next cycles. The planet would be left behind to recover or die on its own. The announcement spread quickly. Fear turned into anger, then sorrow. Many refused to leave, others packed immediately. Elias stood before the council once more. You're giving up too early, he said. This is not your world, one leader replied. No, Elias agreed. But we have lived through worse. Aurelia rose beside him. What he means, she said, is that we are not finished yet. The chamber grew tense. Elias took a breath. If you abandon the planet now, you lose everything. If you stay, you risk much. But humans are willing to help rebuild not the old Lyris, but a new one. The council asked the question they had avoided until now. Will humans stay? Elias looked at Aurelia, at the planet spinning slowly on the screen, at a world that refused to be safe. "I will," he said. Outside, the season changed again, and this time humans were ready. Elias stayed. The order from Earth remained unanswered. Days passed, then weeks. No one forced him to leave. The situation on Lyris grew too serious for arguments about rules and distance. The evacuation began, but it did not go as planned. Many people refused to board the ships. They stood in streets, in open fields, in shelters built by human hands, and said they would not abandon their world. Some cried, some shouted, some simply waited. Aurelia spent long hours listening to them. She heard fear, anger, hope, and something new growing beneath it all: determination. The planet did not care about their feelings. The next seasonal shift arrived early and violent. Heat waves struck frozen regions. Ice melted too fast, flooding lowlands. The oceans reacted with rising storms that circled the globe. Human systems activated before panic could spread. Mobile barriers rose. Emergency food units deployed. Temporary cities moved on massive platforms, slowly crawling away from danger zones. Nothing was perfect. Some systems failed. Some people were lost, but most survived. Elias moved constantly, sleeping when he could, eating when reminded. He stopped thinking in days and began thinking in cycles: storm cycles, repair cycles, rest cycles. Humans taught the locals something important. Survival was not about control. It was about response. The thinning atmosphere became the next great threat. Radiation levels climbed slowly but steadily. Long exposure would harm future generations. Elias gathered human engineers and local scientists into one shared team. Old rules vanished. Ideas flowed freely. They could not restore the atmosphere. So they changed how life lived under it. Shielded cities grew beneath reinforced domes and natural rock. Wearable protection became common. Crops were redesigned to grow under filtered light. Children learned to play indoors during high radiation cycles without fear. The world grew harder. Life grew tougher. The council returned months later expecting to find chaos. Instead, they found motion. The planet no longer followed old seasons, but people had learned the new ones. Warning systems were simple, fast, and honest. When danger came, no one argued with the data. Aurelia addressed the council with calm strength. "We are no longer waiting for balance," she said. "We are living with change." Some council members still argued for full evacuation. They saw loss everywhere: lost beauty, lost traditions, lost certainty. Elias listened quietly. When he finally spoke, his voice was tired but steady. "Earth was once gentle," he said. "We lost that. What we gained was resilience. Lyris is not dying. It is becoming something different." The final vote was close. Lyris would not be abandoned, not fully. The evacuation ships became supply ships. The off-world cities became partners instead of replacements. The planet remained harsh but alive. Years passed. The children who grew up during the collapse learned new words for seasons. Not spring or winter, but names that meant heat rise, storm turn, quiet sky. They learned drills before games and repair before rest. They also learned laughter. Humans and natives worked side by side. Differences blurred. Shared struggle created shared culture. Elias aged more than he expected. Lines marked his face. His hair grayed, but his eyes remained sharp, filled with quiet pride. One day, Aurelia joined him on a high platform overlooking the ocean. The sea was rough but controlled by massive human-built current guides far below. "The planet is stable," she said. Elias shook his head gently. "No, it's survivable," she smiled. "That is enough." A message finally arrived from Earth, long delayed by distance and chaos. It was not an order, it was a question. "Do you wish to return?" Elias looked around. At the cities shaped by necessity, at people who no longer feared change, only unpreparedness. "No," he replied. Lyris never became gentle again. Storms still came without warning. Heat and cold still fought for control. The sky remained unpredictable, but the world stayed alive, and the galaxy learned something new. Humans did not need perfect planets. They needed challenges. Where others saw broken worlds, humans saw homes waiting to be built. And on a planet with unstable seasons, humanity proved once more that survival was not about peace. It was about refusing to leave.